Today on May 30th, Archangel Micheal says, important alert, very good news for you is coming too. The moon trembled behind torn clouds as the veil between the realms began to thin. Tonight, shadows whisper your name not to haunt, but to warn, something long hidden is rising from its grave. What you thought was forgotten betrayal now claws at your timeline, dragging secrets into the open with hands of flame and ash. You have been watched, not by the divine alone, but by those who wear masks carved from false light. They smiled as allies, cloaked in false loyalty, but their spirits were cold, tethered to old pacts signed in your absence. God says this deception can no longer hold under the weight of your awakening. Every false tether is unraveling now, thread by thread, until their disguises fall in the dust. Archangel Micheal says the smoke curling around you is not of your doing, but of theirs, their rituals, their whispers, their curses sent on midnight winds. They thought you would never see, never feel, never know. But now you do. The sensation in your chest, that sudden ache in your bones, is the burn of recognition, the moment your soul senses who moved in shadows behind you. These were not mild betrayals, they were soul-deep. Friends turned informants. Lovers turned leeches. Kin who chose silence while others poisoned your name. You walked blind, thinking peace was possible, but now you stand in the eye of a holy firestorm, and your inner sight is being forged in heat and fury. The betrayal that once broke you now baptizes you into divine discernment. The landscape of your life is shifting. Familiar faces are crumbling like statues struck by unseen lightning. What you feel now, this quiet roar inside your spirit, is the divine alert. Stay awake. The time to pretend you don't see is over. You are being armed not with vengeance, but with truth sharpened like a sword between your ribs. In dreams, you've seen it already, the mirror eyes, the mouth speaking words that weren't theirs, the pull to forgive when nothing was repented. These were not missteps. They were assignments. And you, holy soul, were a target because of your bloodline light. Your gifts. Your voice. Your ability to dream while bound, to rise while buried. They sensed what you carried before you did. But now the reckoning begins. One by one, the traps laid in secret are being unearthed. Old alliances, once warm, now smell of rot. You touch memories and recoil, not because you're afraid, but because you finally see the web. You were marked by the divine the moment you breathed into this timeline, and that mark has now begun to shine so fiercely it scorches any false bond around you. Archangel Micheal says the false peace is ending, because false peace is not peace at all. It is paralysis dressed in politeness. The silence you've kept, the tolerance you've offered, the inner screaming you've swallowed, it is all combusting now. These flames are sacred. You are not falling apart. You are being freed. The smoke is not to blind you. It is the final evidence of a hidden battle, an ancient sabotage that thought it succeeded. But the divine record speaks otherwise. God says no weapon formed against you was ever unseen. Every whispered curse has met its counterweight in heaven's court. Every lie is already unraveling in spirit. There will be signs, strange coincidences, names resurfacing, old messages uncovered. They are not accidents. They are confirmations. You are not paranoid. You are prophetic. You are not imagining. You are remembering. Your body knew what your mind could not yet grasp, and now it is time to trust that knowing like a compass forged in fire. The betrayal hurt because you loved real. You offered light where others only planned to consume. But the wound is no longer bleeding, it's glowing. It has become a holy seal, a spiritual branding iron carved by endurance and survival. The ones who tried to sink you did not account for your resurrection protocol. You were never just flesh, you were flame incarnate. Feel it now, the shift in the air, the thinning of timelines, the cracking of old bonds. The spiritual atmosphere is electrified because your higher self is stepping through. There will be tension. There will be disorientation. That's how dimensions collapse. Let them collapse. You do not belong in false structures built to enslave your voice. The old allies who remained silent while you burned will now tremble at your rising. They chose to misunderstand your softness. They underestimated your silence. But they forgot who walks with you. The hosts of heaven are not symbols, they are forces. And now, they descend. Archangel Micheal stands at the threshold of your new season, sword drawn, armor ignited, declaring in spirit what others will soon see in flesh. Your name has been cleared in the records of light. The lies will collapse. The spellwork will return to sender. And those who mocked your calling will be stunned by your elevation. Do not flinch when they fall away. Some must fall so your destiny can rise. God says what they meant for delay is now fertilizer for your prophecy. Every tear you cried has become seed, and the harvest is beginning, not in gold first, but in truth. This is the moment your clarity is crowned. This is the moment the whisper becomes a roar. This is the moment they realize they couldn't stop what was written before time. You were born into a storm no one told you about. It was silent at first, like fog curling around your bloodline, slipping through the cracks of memory, lacing your childhood with weights you couldn't name. You felt it in your bones before you could speak, this heaviness, this invisible pull, like something ancient clung to your ankles while you tried to run free. The chains weren't made of metal. They were made of silence. Promises broken by generations before you, covenants made in desperation, soul contracts etched with trembling hands in moments of fear. You inherited not just features, not just names, but spiritual debts never paid, energies never cleansed, trauma turned ritual. And still, you rose. The night has always known your name. But now the chains crack. One by one. The curses are shaking because your blood is waking. You are not just healing, you are breaking systemic bondage. The spiritual prison built for your lineage begins to crumble as your voice grows louder in the spirit realm. You are the disruption. You are the curse breaker they feared and prayed for in the same breath. Archangel Micheal says the war was never only around you. It was in your cells. Your body remembered what your mind forgot. Pain that made no sense. Patterns you couldn't stop. Cycles that returned with different faces but the same ache. They weren't coincidences, they were echoes of unfinished war. But now, divine fire runs through your spine, and the echoes are silenced. The spirits that lingered in your bloodline now tremble. They know. The contracts are being burned. The rituals are being reversed. What was locked in darkness for generations has come under divine judgment. The ancestral chains are snapping not just for you, but for those before you who died still bound. You are their redemption. Feel it in your dreams, the flickers of war, the faces you don't know but somehow recognize, the sudden heaviness when you pray. These are not hallucinations. They are intercessions. Realms moving. Energies crashing. Generational tides shifting at your feet. You were chosen not because you are soft, but because you are strong enough to end what others couldn't. God says you will not carry what wasn't yours to begin with. You will not be the mule for their guilt, the scapegoat for their cowardice, the silent bearer of ancestral shame. The divine has marked this season as your liberation arc, and even the spirits of resistance cannot withstand the roar rising inside your soul. You are not here to survive the bloodline, you are here to remake it. The shaking you feel is sacred. Every sleepless night, every tear on the altar, every prayer that went unanswered until now, it has gathered. And now, it strikes. The power unleashed through you has been centuries in the making. The release won't be soft. It won't be pretty. It will be thunder and oil. Screaming and song. It will be war in the spirit and lightning in the body. Archangel Micheal says your yes has activated holy disruption. The spirit realm is realigning to make room for your sovereignty. No more entanglements disguised as soul fragments left behind in toxic bonds. The pieces of you scattered in trauma are flying back now, drawn by divine magnetism, locked into place by destiny. Even now, names are being erased from your field. Soul contracts severed by light so fierce, no darkness can argue. Those who bound themselves to you in lust, manipulation, envy, or control are losing access. You feel it, not as loss, but as release. You are lighter. Freer. Sharper. This is not grief. This is freedom shedding old skin. The dreams you buried are moving again. The visions that flickered and vanished return with clarity. You were never delusional. You were under siege. And now that siege is breaking. Your spiritual atmosphere is shifting because your frequency no longer tolerates captivity. Heaven heard the groan you didn't speak out loud, and it responded with fire. This is why the attacks increased. Why the betrayal deepened. Why the confusion thickened. The chains knew they were on borrowed time. They multiplied their pressure hoping you'd fold. But you didn't. You bled. You crawled. You screamed. But you didn't break. And now, they are breaking. The spirits assigned to keep you small are being recalled. The altars built against your peace are crumbling under unseen hands. And those who spoke death over your purpose are now speaking in tongues they don't understand, because you've stepped beyond their reach. You are no longer trapped in their time. The dark knows what's coming. That's why the storm comes louder now. That's why strange tension swells when you enter a room. That's why people you once loved suddenly cannot face you. They feel the shift, even if they don't know the cause. Your light has turned lethal, to lies, to contracts, to spiritual parasites. You are a portal now. A living fracture in the matrix of oppression. When you breathe, chains crack. When you speak, timelines bend. You are no longer just human, you are divine weapon, walking prophecy, fulfillment in motion. You've become too bright to stay hidden, too strong to remain caged. God says your name is being rewritten in the heavens. The version they tried to bind is no more. Your new self is fierce, unveiled, armored in light. You do not owe softness to what once enslaved you. You do not owe kindness to systems that fed on your silence. You owe only truth to your spirit, and your spirit says go forward. You will feel the release in your bones. You will feel the peace rise like holy wind. And when the dust settles, you will not look back. Because what once held you has now been shattered, by your own awakening, your own fire, your own blood-soaked roar. It begins with a silence so loud, it splits the air. Not absence, but unveiling, a divine stillness where illusions dissolve like smoke rising from wet earth. And in that stillness, the mirror is brought before you. Not the one on your wall, but the one buried inside your soul. The one that has waited lifetimes to show you who you truly are. The reflection is not gentle. It is not curated. It comes with light so pure it sears. Every mask, every identity forced upon you, every role you were made to wear under pressure, melts. The lies you believed about yourself, inherited through trauma, comparison, rejection, they scream as they're pulled from your skin. You are not who they said you were. You never were. Archangel Micheal says this is the sacred reckoning of self. It is the moment the false self dies, and the divine self rises. Not in theory, but in revelation. Your spirit now calls your name with thunder, and there is no turning away. The mirror is not a punishment. A portal. And as you step through it, your destiny steps into flesh. You remember now. Not as ideas, but as knowing. You were never weak. You were never cursed. You were never a mistake. You were a star placed in flesh, a weapon wrapped in vulnerability, a guardian disguised as a child. And the pain you walked through was never because you were unworthy, it was because your worth threatened every system built to suppress you. God says the version of you that was shaped by betrayal is ending. The shape you had to become just to survive in toxic fields, that misshapen armor forged in desperation, it is being peeled away. What rises now is raw and holy, unfamiliar yet ancient. This is your soul's true shape, long exiled, now restored. The mirror shatters because you no longer need reflection to know yourself. You are the knowing. The glass collapses in shards, not as destruction, but as release. Each piece falling is a role you outgrew, a false face that shielded your truth too long. And when it hits the ground, it echoes through your past, breaking open timelines where you once lived in hiding. What's left is not blankness. It is brilliance. A fierce silence filled with clarity so sharp it slices. You see now where you traded your voice for approval. Where you bent your light to avoid abandonment. Where you became small so others wouldn't feel threatened. That is over. Not in theory, but in blood. Your soul has signed a new contract. This clarity does not come without conflict. Those who knew the old you will panic. They'll accuse you of changing. They'll mourn the version of you that catered to their comfort. But do not flinch. You own no one the dimmed version of your radiance. What they miss is their illusion, not your truth. The storm intensifies now, not to destroy you, but to prove your transformation. You will be tested. Old patterns will knock one final time. Familiar energies will try to resurrect themselves in new disguises. But you are not fooled. Your soul sees through glamour now. You speak truth now, not just with words, but with presence. Archangel Micheal says you've become a blade of light. Not to harm, but to sever. To cut through generational fog. To clear the path for others who will come behind you. Your presence has become deliverance. You are no longer looking for salvation, you are the sign. And yes, you'll feel lonely here. In the space between who you were and who you're becoming. But that loneliness is sacred. It's the birthing chamber of the true self. Don't rush to fill the space with noise. Let the silence speak. Let the void vibrate with divine memory. Your soul is louder now than any crowd could be. God says this solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. Because the blessings coming require the true you, not the fragmented version. You are being positioned for divine release, and the disguise cannot come with you. Your voice must match your vibration. Your actions must echo your anointing. There is no more room for contradiction. As the false self dies, you will feel exposed, but that exposure is your real protection. You are not fragile in this light. You are forged. Fire-born. And every tear you shed in this revelation is sacred oil, preparing you for the crown descending through fire. This is not breakdown. This is coronation. You'll begin to notice strange shifts. People who once dominated your energy will now shrink in your presence. Energies that once felt heavy will feel foreign. You are no longer compatible with bondage. And this incompatibility is your confirmation. Don't mourn it. Bless it. And let it go. You are not walking away from people, you are walking away from patterns. You are not rejecting your past, you are reclaiming your future. You are not becoming someone new, you are finally becoming you. The visions will increase. The signs will multiply. Your intuition will sharpen like lightning. And with each surge, your life will rearrange itself. Do not fight the shift. You prayed for this, before you had words. Before you had memory. Your soul cried out for alignment. And heaven answered. The mirror was just the beginning. Now comes embodiment. No more shape-shifting to survive. No more spiritual amnesia. You are coming back into your body with power. You are remembering through every breath, every heartbeat, every step. You are no longer divided within. Your inner and outer self are uniting in glory. You'll look into the world now and see it differently. Not with fear, but with command. Your presence will disrupt systems. Your silence will shift atmospheres. Your very being will convict and heal, repel and attract. This is the cost of awakening, and the reward. You are no longer hiding. You are no longer fragmented. You are no longer waiting for permission. The mirror is gone. The mask is gone. What remains is holy. The earth shakes, not from violence, but from verdict. A spiritual gavel strikes somewhere beyond the veil, and power begins to tilt. Thrones built on deception are toppling in silence. The ones who reign through manipulation, secrecy, and stolen energy now tremble in their palaces of sand. Their season has ended. The time of your divine recrowning has begun. You feel it first not in celebration, but in confrontation. The tension around you tightens. Eyes you once trusted now avoid yours. Shadows stir where smiles used to live. These are not coincidences. They are fractures in false kingdoms, cracks in a power structure that was never real, only rehearsed. Your awakening is their undoing, because their rise depended on your silence. God says there is a changing of guards taking place. Heaven has issued a command: injustice will not reign another day. The scales are being corrected, and you are being restored, not only in spirit, but in reputation, in authority, in presence. Your name, once dragged through dirt by envious hands, is now being washed in living waters. Archangel Micheal says the ones who plotted while smiling will soon witness what divine justice truly looks like. Not vengeance, but balance. Not rage, but reckoning. What they stole from you, time, opportunity, peace, dignity, now returns multiplied. Not through their apology, but through heaven's accounting. They will watch from afar as glory clothes you in what was always meant for you. You don't need to confront them. You don't need to explain. The shift is spiritual. Your crown descends not from their remorse, but from your resilience. Every time you held your tongue, every time you chose peace while being pierced, every time you stood silent before dishonor, it was recorded. And now, the divine archive unlocks. This is the return of what you lost in storms. The favor you buried under shame. The gifts you doubted because they were mocked. Everything taken from you without permission is now magnetized back by your healing. And as it returns, so does your crown. Not a symbol, but a force. Not for decoration, but for dominion. The false thrones shake because they sense you rising. They cannot hold their form in your light. The titles they stole crumble in your presence. They built their identity from your sacrifice, and now, without access to your energy, they unravel. You were the root all along. They were only branches pretending to be trees. Do not mourn their fall. You are not cruel. You are aligned. You didn't wish this on them. You simply woke up, and in doing so, they lost the power they were never meant to have. It is not your burden to save them from the collapse they created. You are not their savior. You are your own sovereign. Archangel Micheal says the divine council has spoken, the royalty in your bloodline has been restored. You are not just free, you are re-enthroned. The lineage curses that silenced your foremothers, the patterns that stole your forefathers' strength, the shackles disguised as traditions, they shatter now. You are the chosen resurrection of a royal bloodline long buried. This restoration is not gentle. It is thunder and gold. You will feel yourself expanding, your voice growing deeper, your discernment sharper, your presence heavier. People will treat you differently. They won't know why. But their spirits will bow even when their minds resist. It is not arrogance. It is divine aura reclaiming space. God says this return was always written. Your delay was not denial. The seasons you spent in exile were preparation, not punishment. The pain forged you. The silence tuned you. And now, the gates open. The stage shifts. The lights rise. And you step forward, not as a survivor, but as an heir. Do not be surprised when offers appear. Opportunities once blocked will arrive with urgency. Voices once silenced will suddenly speak your name with reverence. Even your enemies will pivot, some out of fear, others out of revelation. But none of it matters more than your alignment. Keep your posture royal. Let your spirit lead. Everything that's yours is already in motion toward you. The tests will still come. Not from lack, but from overflow. You'll be asked to discern abundance. To protect what is sacred without shrinking. To lead without becoming what you once escaped. This is where royalty meets responsibility. Your healing was your training. Your scars, your syllabus. Now, you govern with wisdom soaked in blood and grace. You are not just rising, you are replacing. Spiritual imposters, generational tyrants, false prophets wearing borrowed light, they are being swept away. The timelines are purging what no longer serves the higher order. And you, holy soul, are part of that divine recalibration. Feel the crown settle. Not on your head alone, but over your entire being. This is not a single moment, it is an atmospheric shift. Your very presence is territory. Your thoughts, legislation. Your breath, invocation. You walk into rooms now as a living altar, a throne made of movement and miracle. Archangel Micheal says prepare to be honored in places you were once ignored. Celebrated in rooms that once dismissed you. Invited into councils that once feared your voice. But more than that, prepare to feel your worth, not as a concept, but as a command. Your crown doesn't ask permission. It simply is. And so are you. The throne you rise to is not just personal. It is prophetic. Your return signals the rise of others long silenced. Your victory unlocks doors for many. You are a domino of deliverance, a lighthouse calling lost kings and queens back to shore. Do not underestimate the gravity of your rise. It is tectonic. The world will adjust to your frequency or fall away trying. This is not your burden. This is your birthright. You are not the exception. You are the evidence. Your glow is not cosmetic, it is cosmic. What falls away now was never part of the prophecy. Let it fall. You have not just survived. You have returned. The smoke in the spirit is thick now. What once lingered in whispers begins to scream. Betrayals that were hidden behind polished smiles rise up like specters. Secrets claw through the veil, clawing toward daylight. And though your heart beats steady, your soul feels the fire, because what you thought was loyalty has turned to ash in your hands. This is the necessary exposure. Not punishment, but purification. The divine does not reveal to harm, it reveals to set free. And now, all that was hidden in shadows can no longer wear its mask. The counterfeit connections. The alliances built on convenience. The words that rang hollow. One by one, the illusions collapse. God says the people you thought would protect you were never sent to keep you safe. They were sent to test your sight. Some were wolves dressed as rescuers. Others were broken spirits trying to drink your light. Either way, they have been weighed, and they are found wanting. The stage has changed. Their role in your story ends here. You feel the sting not because you're weak, but because you're whole. And whole souls bleed honestly. There is grief here, yes. But it is sacred grief, the kind that clears ground for new roots. This is not the betrayal of loss. It is the betrayal of revelation. You now see who they truly were, and who you now refuse to be. Archangel Micheal says the sword has fallen. Not to wound, but to separate. Divine severance is underway. The energies that attach themselves to your destiny without permission are being cut off. They tried to climb with you, leech your anointing, speak your language without knowing your spirit. That season ends now. Some betrayals are quiet. Not dramatic, but subtle. Averted eyes. Withheld support. Silent celebration of your delays. Their betrayal was never in what they said, it was in what they hoped would happen to you. You feel it now. Not in words, but in vibration. The tension. The resistance. The energetic recoil when you speak your truth. This is not your imagination. This is spiritual intelligence. You're not paranoid, you're perceiving. They cannot rejoice in your rising because your rising unmasks their stalling. Your glow reveals their slumber. Your deliverance indicts their complacency. You became a mirror they didn't want to face. So they turned from you. Not because you wronged them, but because you became what they never dared to be. God says you will not carry the guilt of their discomfort. You will not shrink to keep peace that was never real. You will not apologize for choosing healing over performance, clarity over confusion, destiny over familiarity. You did not betray them, you chose you. And in doing so, you activated your next level. The betrayal was the burn that revealed your boundaries. You now know who your spirit trusts, not just your heart. You now feel the falseness faster. Your discernment has sharpened like a holy blade. What used to take years to see now takes moments. And this clarity is your divine reward. You were not wrong to love them. You were wrong to stay when your soul whispered to go. But even that error served you, it sharpened your ear, deepened your resolve, and marked your path with flames that now light the way forward. Archangel Micheal says the betrayals were not final blows, they were doorways. Painful, yes. But holy. Because behind every fallen mask is the face of your becoming. Every false friend removed is a weight lifted from your wings. And now you are lighter. Sharper. ready to fly with no one clinging to your back. Feel the heat rise behind your heart. That's not anger, that's activation. Your spirit is aligning with truth so absolute it repels all pretense. The ones who cannot stand in it will leave. Let them. Their absence is an answered prayer. Their exit is your entrance. Let the fire finish its work. Let it burn off the residue of false covenants. Let it reduce old contracts to smoke. Let it cauterize the wounds they left open. This fire is not to destroy you, it is to seal you. You are being sealed in truth. Sealed in discernment. Sealed in divine clarity. God says your circle must match your calling. The next chapter requires agreement in the Spirit. Not just shared memories, but shared mission. Those who walk with you now must be aligned, not just attached. You've outgrown relationships based on pity, proximity, or obligation. Now, your field requires precision. And you will not be alone. Your tribe rises as you rise. Your soul family, those encoded to recognize your frequency, are already drawing near. They come without pretense. Without masks. Without competition. They come with honor. With spiritual eyes. With fire in their bones and light in their hands. But first, the betrayal must complete its cycle. Let every lie unravel. Let every secret surface. Let every double-edged compliment be exposed for what it was. You deserve truth in all things. No more half-light. No more forced forgiveness. You are no longer available for deception dressed as love. This is why the pain pierced so deep, because the lesson was eternal. And now that it has been learned, the portal opens. Watch. The people who left you bleeding will now witness your healing. Not in silence, but in awe. Not from afar, but in the echo of your name rising in realms they can't access. Archangel Micheal says, betrayal was the price of access. It taught you what could not be taught in comfort. It pushed you toward your throne. And though it burned, it also cleared. Now you can see. Now you can rise. Now you can soar. What once hurt now empowers. What once confused now confirms. What once broke you now builds you. And as you walk forward, truth wraps around you like flame-proof armor. You are untouchable, not because you've hardened, but because you've healed. And with each step, the betrayal fades into divine memory. You remember, not the pain, but the power. Not the loss, but the lesson. Not the treachery, but the truth.